Good morning, guys. We are now beginning our next unit, which is Unit 3. And this is all about percents, fractions, decimals, how to find the percent of a number, etc. And so the first one, which is Module 2.1, this is Understand Percents. And our learning target, I can understand the meaning of a percent as a rate per hundred and model percents using 10 by 10 grids and bar diagrams. So our vocabulary for this is percent. So what is a percent? So percent is nothing but parts per hundred. So it is a ratio or a rate that is comparing a quantity out of 100. And percents are used in everyday world. All right, and I have another video that I have created for this, but I just wanted to once again review what percents are. And you can see that percents are always written with the percent sign. So if I say 50%, I would write 50% like this. Okay, that signifies that this is a percent. All right, and again, it's a ratio or rate that compares a number to 100. And percent means per hundred, and I told you it is represented by this symbol. Okay, and for example, again, 50%, what does this mean? This means that this is 50%, which is 50 per hundred. So I can also write this as 50 per hundred. All right, and of course we can write it as this way. We can write a ratio like this, or I can say 50 to 100. So these are all the different ways that I can write 50%, because it's nothing but what is it? It's a ratio or a rate that is comparing a number to 100. All right. So I'm going to show you certain 10 by 10 grids, because 10 times 10 is what? It is 100, right? And so basically the percent denominator has got to be 100. So whenever we are creating a model or we are looking at a model, by looking at the shaded or the unshaded part, depending on what the question's asking, we should be able to identify what percent it is. So I'm going to take you over to my whiteboard. And here's a model that I wanted to show you. All right. So let's look at this one. All right, so if I'm looking at this, we have a 10 by 10 grid. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that way. And 10 by 10, which is 100, and this is modeling a percent, okay? Because it's always out of 100, as I mentioned. Now, let's look at this. Each square over here, because this is out of 100, each square is representing 1%. Okay, this whole thing is 10%. All right, like each column is 10% this way. All right, I can look at that. So if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at how much is shaded in, all right, so we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. So what is my percent? It is 45%, which I have shown you over here in the example. And it can be written as a ratio in three forms. We can write 45 to 100. We can write 45 to 100 or 45 over 100. And this is 45%. All right. Now, there are several other ways that I can model 45%. This is not the only way, so let me show you. And here are some more examples. All right, some more examples of 45%. So basically, what am I looking at? I'm just looking at what is shaded in. So 45% earlier, it was shown in the column way. It can also be shown like this. It basically depends on how many squares are shaded in. Each square is representing 1%. So look, 10, 20, 30, 40, and this is 5. So this is 45%. Here's another example. 10, 20, 30, 40, and 5. 45%. Let's look at this example again. So this is going as 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and see? All right. And this is 40 because this is 20. This is another 20, 40, 5, 46. 44, 45. Okay. So once again, 20, 40, 44, 45. So that is 45%. All right. So it can be represented in so many different ways. It's just you're looking at what is shaded in, and that is the percent. So if you're talking about if that is the percent, what percent of the grid is not shaded? So we know that this entire thing is 100. Right? So if 45% is shaded in, what is not shaded in would be 100 minus 45, all right? Which would be 55%. So look what's not shaded, 10, 20, 30, 40, 55. So literally you're just taking 100%, which is 100, minus whatever is shaded, and that gives you the unshaded portion, all right? So let's quickly identify some of the models as to what percent it is. So let's look at this one. What percent is represented by this graph? So as I can see, half of the graph is shaded in, okay? And we know that in a 10 by 10 grid, it is representing a percent of 100, right? So out of 100, so look, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. All right. So we have 50 squares that are shaded, and the ratio that is comparing the number of shaded squares to the total number of squares is going to be over here. All right. We have 50 to 100, and that is my ratio. I can write it like that. I can write it like this, 50 to 100. I can also write it as 50 over 100. So these are all the ways that I am showing the ratio. And so the percent represented by this 10 by 10 grid is 50%. 50%. All right. Let's look at another one. Let's look at this grid. All right. So what percent is represented by this grid? So I can see it is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62. So what is this percent over here? This is 62%. 62%. So if I was writing it out, of course I could write it as a ratio of, so look, this is again, this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 62 to 100, which is nothing but 62%. Okay, and that is what this one is representing. So let's do one in which in a recent survey, 17% of the people surveyed said that they have a magazine subscription. So we are going to shade the 10 to 10 grid to model 17%. So I just want to show that to you. Okay, so let's look at this one here. So all I've done is I have taken this, I've drawn 10 by 10, which is 100, all right? And I know that one entire row over here, that is 10. And so this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So there's my representation of 17%. And that means in this 100 squares in a 10 by 10 grid, we are doing 17 per 100, and all we're doing is we are shading in 17 of the squares. All right. So let's look at another one. Middle school newspaper surveyed the student body and found that 14% of the students surveyed chose horses as their favorite animals. Okay. shade the 10 by 10 grid to model 14%. So 14%, I would do 10 in the entire column, and then I would just do another 4. So here is an example. There it is, 10 and 4, and this is representing my 14%. All right. Now, you can also use bar diagrams to represent and to model percents. Okay. So a bar diagram can be divided into any number of equal size sections. Okay. Any number of equal size sections. I'm going to give you an example of what that means. So let's look at this one. All right. So let's look at this one here. So to model 10% or a multiple of 10%, you can just take the bar diagram and you can divide it into 10 equal sections. Okay. So we have 0% here, then 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So 10 equal sections. That's how the bar diagram is broken up. So if I'm saying 10%, only this portion is going to be colored in. All right, so look, for 10%, only this portion will be colored in. If it's 40%, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is 40%. All right, for 70%, I'm going to color 7 out of 10. Okay, so here 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%. All right, for 90%, I'm just going to leave one blank. And the rest are all colored in. So 9 out of 10. And that is how a bar diagram can be used to show a percentage. Okay. Now, what is another way to divide a bar diagram to model 40%? So, well, I can divide the bar diagram into 5 sections. So if I'm showing 40%, instead of doing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, I could also make a bar diagram and do 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So I divided not to 10 sections, but to 5 sections. All right. And each of them is representing, so 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, right? So I can also do it that way. So I would divide it into 5 sections, and each section would represent 20%. So if I'm doing 40%, I would shade 2 out of the 5 in that bar diagram. All right. Now, what about if I need to model 5% or 15%? Then what I can do is, instead of having like 10 different sections, like it was 10, 20, 30, 40, right? I can divide it into 20 sections. All right. So let me show you what I mean. So let's look at this one. To model 5%, over here, okay, or a multiple of 5%, you can divide the bar diagram into 20 equal size sections. These are 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so I divided into 20 equal sections. And over here, like you can see, the bar diagram shows representations of several percents that are multiples of 5%. So it makes it a lot simpler, okay, when I have 20 parts. So look, here are some examples that I wanted to show you. All right, so each is like 5 because these are all multiples of 5. So I have 5% there. Then for 15, I would have 5, 10, 15. For 55, I would have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. So this much is colored in. All right, and for 85%, I would just leave the 3 over here unshaded. The rest would all be colored in to represent my 85%. Okay, why might it not be advantageous to use a bar diagram to model a percent such as 23%? Okay, so is 23 a factor of 100? It is not a factor of 100. So it would be difficult to actually show it over here. So you would have to divide the bar diagram into 100 sections to model the 23%. So it would not be the best idea to use that for 23%. But you can definitely use a 10 by 10 grid to model 23%. But on a bar diagram, that's not the best choice. Okay, so let's look at an example, and we are going to identify what percent it is. So let's look at this one. All right, what percent is represented by the bar diagram? All right, so if I'm looking at this, now we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts over here. Okay, so this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% is what is represented, because the bar diagram is divided into 10 equal sections. Each section is representing 10%, right? Because this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So these are all percents, right? So how many sections are shaded over here? 8 sections out of the 10 are shaded. Okay, so 8 times 10%, this is 80%. And so the bar diagram is representing 80% in this question. All right, let's look at this one. What percent is represented over here now? Okay, so I can see over here it is divided into how many sections? It is divided into 5 sections. All right, and that means each section is represented by 20%. So this is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, right? So since 2 of them are shaded in, what is this? It is 40%. So 40% is my answer. All right? Okay, so we are going to use a bar diagram to model 65%. Now we know that 65% is a multiple of 5. So just by using 10, divisions on the bar diagram is not going to be enough. So we are going to break it up into 20 sections because it's factors of 5. So I can do 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. like that. So I'm going to show you the diagram. Okay, so here we go. So look at this one. All right, 20 sections. Since we are talking about 65%, we know that each section is representing 5%. And so how many sections should be shaded to represent 65%? So here look, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65. So how many sections is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 sections should be shaded, and this is representing my 65%. All right, let's do one last problem. Draw a bar diagram to model 35%. So to look at 35%, again, it's we have 5, 10, 15, 20. So because of that, we will have to, because these are all multiples of 5. So what I would do is I would break it apart into 20 parts. Okay, so here we go. Break it into 20 parts. And then I'm looking at, to model my 35%, how much do I need to shade it? Look, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of a total of 20 parts need to be shaded in for me to represent 35%. All right, so once again, that's basically what this lesson is about. Understanding the meaning of a percent. Please remember, it is parts per 100, so it is out of 100. And we are obviously modeling the percents using the grids, the 10 by 10 grids, and the bar diagrams in this first lesson on percents, which is understanding percents. All right, have a great day, everyone.